Hello, my name is Tier Welling, and I'm going to talk to you today about my research and about the concept of supersymmetry. Now, my research, specifically the calendar's research, my T calendar, which is not one calendar, it's several calendars with a base of 9 calendars put together that work in a gear system. That gear system is it works based off the functionality and structure of supersymmetry, the quantum physics concept of supersymmetry. Now, supersymmetry itself, it has a kind of a basic explanation. No matter the distance between objects, they if objects are in supersymmetry with each other, then there's a symmetry. This one moves, and those motions are mirrored by each other in ways and formats that are still not quite understandable yet. But the point is that there's a symmetry there that's been calculated and seen. That there have been it would be assumption. The assumption is that based on other rules of motion, that the center of a galaxy and its twist, the center of a galaxy, it twists. The stuff at the center would twist at a different speed, at a different relative speed than the outermost particles. Even though they're connected with each other, as this one twists, this one kind of follows. But these objects actually move faster than this object because there's light years more to move than here. The objects that are the closest to the center have a much smaller distance to move to be able to match the orbital flow of this galaxy. But out here, the 1 degree here is X amount of thousands and millions of miles of distance. Out here, it could be multitude of light years. So it moves to be able to have this on a record player or something like that. The distance here is measured in a fraction of an inch or micrometers. Out here, it's a micrometer. Out here, it's a centimeter or two. So that multiplied out to a galaxy, that symmetry means that this stuff is moving faster than this because they're in symmetry with each other, which kind of throws off C and such. Anyway, so that symmetry with each other is applied to applied to solar systems. Our solar system, the sun, which is a star at the center of our solar system. Now, if you apply the mathematics in a linear logical format, then the sun is a master is in master supersymmetry with all the celestial objects in its orbit. Now, from Pluto to Mercury, they're all in supersymmetry with the sun. But their movements are controlled by the individual fixed points in each one's orbit. Now, we don't know the other 7 or 8 or 1,000 other objects, the celestial objects that are in supersymmetry with the sun. There are small items. There is asteroids and such. There's comets, and there's all kinds of debris. There's also Mercury, little tiny non-electromagnetic planets, and then there's Jupiter, which is not only huge, but it's also building itself a nice heavy duty core because it absorbs a huge multiple tons of celestial junk every year. It absorbs so much junk that it's been calculated that the size of the overall size of Jupiter grows by a centimeter or two every year. So, and with that growth, it adds to its own individual gravity. all that particles and such go into something of its core, and which the core of it is heating up because of variety of conditions, and the core is obviously has millions and millions and millions and billions of trillions of tons of celestial objects, comets and meteors and such, which have a mixture of elements with them, and all that stuff has come together, and is as Jupiter rotates, and its storms are extremely active and move at hundreds of miles an hour, according to the Earth measurements. Those items move, and that friction causes heat, and after the billions of years of this activity, that heat has melted those items, and the core of Jupiter is in part liquid. Liquid iron adds some very interesting ideas to the concept of Jupiter. Supersymmetry, there's a bunch of supersymmetry going on inside of Jupiter. Also, Jupiter's supersymmetry with the Sun. Now, what those specific numbers are, we don't know because it hasn't been looked into and calculated. But on Earth, what we have 8 fixed points in the Earth's orbit around the Sun, which are supersymmetry points of contact, and they happen every, give or take, about 35 to 50 days. And there's 8 of them in the over the course of the year, and each of those points is a fixed supersymmetry point around the Sun. The Sun being the key point. Now, things get a little bit complicated from here because there's 9 calendars to track per year. There is Midsummer, June 22nd, Midsummer, then Leaf, and I'm going with their European names. Other cultures have different names for these things, but you have Midsummer, Letha, then you have August 2nd, you have February 22nd, then you have October 31st, and then you come. This is supersymmetry with this one, with the last one, and the last one in this specific sequence. Midsummer and midwinter are in supersymmetry with each other. And then you have that's midwinter. That's December 22nd, give or take 5 days. There is now those 5 days are fixed, but they're not fixed they're fixed with the Sun. They're also fixed with each other. But there's wiggle room. About 5 days of wiggle room. You don't measure the distance between the wiggle room as fixed points. You measure it as a fixed point, and then this is a fixed point, and the distances between the wobbly distance is how you calculate the supersymmetry. You calculate how okay, this one's going a little bit faster or a little slower than it did last year or in previous year sequences. Those patterns are definable. You measure to and from the 8 fixed points in the year. Again, December 22nd, February 2nd, March 22nd, Easter, then May 1st, which tomorrow is May 1st, and then you're right back to the other supersymmetry aspect, which is June 22nd. And now, if its opposite numbers are in supersymmetry with each other, that's an interesting concept to do. The is Imbolc and Lughnasadh together, is February 2nd and August 2nd is connected together, is Easter and Samhain, Easter and Easter March 22nd and February 22nd, are they in supersymmetry with each other? This is very interesting things to think out and do some calculations for. You also have Mabon. You have Mabon, Beltane. You have Beltane, which is May 1st, and then you have Samhain. Also, are they in supersymmetry with each other? Now there's an aspect of Judaism that has Passover. Now previous to Moses' Passover, and post Moses passed over the whole red Northumberland. Interesting, because you high up on the inside of your door where you put the mezuzah, which is the Jewish a copy of the Jewish prayer book or the Torah or such. You put it on the high up on the inside of the door, and you paint it with red. Well, red amber, and up north vertical, and then define your house is then protected from the forces of the divine. That's the definition of Northumberland, which translates to in Gaelic translates to why are hen ogle dd, which happens to be my ancestral name. My father, my father's name was he had Ogle in his name, and he was named given that last name because his grandmother was born. Her name was Ogle, and she comes from a long line of males that go from her father back to Hastings, and that person was formed the army that was handed to William the Conqueror at Hastings, and the longbow was introduced into battle based on that ancestor's work, and handed the army to William the Conqueror, who then applied that quite successfully and did all those actions and such in order to be able to win back our ancestral land, which still bears an English version of our name, Northumberland, and its associated castles. And one of those castles is Bamberg, which used to be or is the seat of power for the British culture. The British culture and the English culture are not the same culture. They're different in almost every way: language, culture, genetic structure. The English are darker from a Roman, Latin, Mediterranean genetic structure, and the British are from a Gaelic, Celtic, semi-Celtic, Gaelic, and more Northern European culture with lighter complexions and about a foot taller, at least historically and genetically. The colloquialism about Irish and Scots are light-haired and light-eyed, either blonde or red hair, and the English are mostly dark-eyed and dark hair, and also darker complexion and 5'2" to 5'5", and historically the the people who speak Gaelic, minus the interesting genetic stuff that happens over time and conquest and such. The Vikings are considered to be 6'6", or or close to 7-footers. There's a lot of cross cultural connection between the Northumberland people and the Scandinavian people. The Vikings aren't actually mindless marauders. They were actually the hired marine mercenary, not mercenaries, because mercenaries indicate a non-command and control structure. In this case, the Vikings were very, very well. Part of the Vikings were very, very strong regarding their command and control structure. Other cultures borrowed the name as a facade and did all kinds of really, really nasty stuff. But that's not the point. The point is my calendars is supersymmetry. Now, the Elder Futhark calendars, there's 8 of them. And one of the reasons why this information was erased is because the academic powers that be had such a huge problem with the cultures that are associated with my ancestors, the British and the Vikings, the Scandinavian, the pre-Roman, there's some weird stuff about Adolf and the Mongol Blue Horde, who were seriously inappropriate people, and they had some very, very interesting ideas on how to do things. The Holocaust was not the first time that those events had happened. They were just that specific name goes with the goes with the Nazis, but there's multiple times the act of genocide occurred with the Mongols, and the Mongols attacked and tried to siege Venice, which is not um, Vienna, which is actually not that far away from Berlin, and it also is several hundred years before. So there's a lot of cultural gap over there. Um, but the point is that the where this information went it was hidden because of political um, expediency and propaganda and such. But the calendars are the 8 fixed points in the Earth's orbit around the sun are as I labeled December 22nd and June 22nd being in symmetry with each other. This is where things become a little bit interesting physics wise and the calendars wise, because every calendar, all 8 calendars have a 365.4 day count sequence. Your birth date is also included, which would be the 9th one. Now all humans have a birth date, and all things have a creation date, and came into an existence, or the building was built now, or these group of humans decided to form this organization at this specific date. Be that organization a family, a business, a country, a culture, a subculture within a culture. There are there is the culture of East LA, for instance, the culture of Hollywood, which is in basically the same city, the same metroplex of cities, but East LA, the culture of East LA and the culture of Hollywood are so radically different. They're almost difficult to measure it, but they're still both Metro LA. And in Metro LA is the semi largest city in Southern California, compared with San Diego. San Diego is also pretty huge. Of course, San Diego and LA can be defined as a mixture of the same city with some green belt in between. Or then there's 300 miles north there's San Francisco, and that stretches for more than 100 miles of a metroplex. There are all the way down to Watsonburg up to Oakland and farther north. That it's kind of like a solid metroplex with some greenery thrown in the mix. All those different cultures there's 1,000 different cultures within the San Francisco metroplex. Some of them are pretty similar to each other, and others are not even close to similar to each other. But each one of those organizations has its own counts, and those counts apply because of the following information. Now, mathematically, I can prove that the Hebrew language it's not the parent, it's not the offspring of Aramaic. That's an etymological fallacy. That's not true. It's kind of hinted at being true, but not actually true. It's one of the contributing factors, but it's not the primary contributing factor. The primary contributing factor to the Hebrew language is the Elder Futhark. The Elder Futhark, the sound sequences, and the Futhark circle, which mimics the Earth's orbit around this, which mimics both the Earth's rotation as well as the Earth's orbit around the sun. That circular structure of the Elder Futhark is where the characters of the Elder Futhark come from. The Futhark is not in a linear line. The Futhark's in a circle. Well, the sounds of the Futhark, each individual character has its own sound sequence that goes with it. Its own word, its own concept. Fehu, Urus, Thursas, Anzus, Rado, Kenaz, and so on. I could do the whole alphabet, the whole Futhark sequence, because the alphabet wasn't invented for almost 1,000 years after the events I'm about to tell you occurred. So the point is that the Hebrew language is from the Elder Futhark calendar, and the Elder Futhark calendar dates back far before Hebrew was invented, and but the Elder Futhark calendar itself, being the parent of Hebrew, and mathematically I can prove this about 3 or 4 different ways. The Futhark is directly of that of the calendars that I've been talking about. Because if you take the Futhark sequence, the 24 characters, and you apply the 24 characters to the 365-day the fixed points of the Earth's orbit around the Sun, the December 22nd, February 2nd, March 22nd, and so on, to get all the sequences out. Each one of them has its own number sequence. Well, the number sequences are a fallacy because those numbers are not actually numbers, because those numbers that we're familiar with Arabic numbers being 1 through 9. Well, that didn't exist until 5 to 400 BC, and the 0 wasn't added for centuries after that. So those calendars could not have used Arabic numbers the Hebrew could not be the Hebrew calendars and association with the 8 fixed points of the Earth's orbit around the Sun could not use Arabic numbers because Arabic didn't exist yet for almost 1,000 years, sort of, kind of, about 800 years. So you have so you can't use Arabic to translate the 365.4 days. You have to use the Elder Futhark, which is a 24 number sequence. Back before Arabic, the Mediterranean, the Middle East, Northern Africa, and European cultures, those are ones I've looked up. Other cultures, those are those facts that are dealt with at a different time. Those cultures, those languages of Europe, of East Africa, the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and such, they had mathematics, because we know they had mathematics because they created the pyramids. Without mathematics, it's not possible to create the pyramids. It's not possible to create Stonehenge without mathematics. And Stonehenge is one of 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 megaliths scattered throughout Europe, and there's a few of them left in Africa, up and down the Nile. There's a few megaliths several hundred miles, several thousand miles south of the Nile, but the point is that the several thousand of them that are found in Northern Europe, several thousand that are left. There's many of them that the Romans and other conquerors destroyed for fear of whatever theocracy that those cultures were dysfunctionally operating from. If your culture says that for you to be powerful, you have to make sure to that culture over there, you have to dispatch them all. That's not so much of a good thing. We have to be powerful, and they're challenging our power, so therefore we have to make them not be, in order to be able to maintain our power. That's not so much of a powerful culture. They're not a threat to you, so chill. The supersymmetry that I'm talking about is really complicated. It's also a reason for cultures that are threatened by technology, by scholastics, by academics, and by mathematics. This is their primary reason to do that destruction. For the following, for one of the reasons why is would be for, among other things, the following information. Okay, as the sun spits out its stuff, that stuff is called the solar wind, and the solar wind has both a whole lot of particles and a whole lot of electromagnetic waves within it. Now we know we have a much better idea of how electricity runs through a power cord, a collection, a sequence of molecules of a mineral that is highly electromagnetically conductive. And the assumption used to be that you have a molecule of, say, copper or gold or some other item that is a very, very good conductor of electricity. This electron would then get an electrical charge from the previous electron, and would come into this electron, and this electron would then pass that electrical charge to this electron, and that electron would then pass that voltage onto this, and would operate in a wave going forward. Mm-hmm. We now know that's not true. It's a good idea, and an extremely simplified way, pre-kindergarten idea of how electricity works, which works until you actually figure out the truth. What the truth is closer to, although we don't know this as a matter of absolute fact, but mathematically and experiment wise, we're pretty sure that this is how it works. You have the sequence, you have the string of molecules together that are highly conductive, copper, gold, so on and so forth. They operate in a molecular string, and what causes that molecular string to align is an electromagnetic force, very quantum physics type type string. Think of that string as a semi-association with the Einstein-Rosen bridge. There's an Einstein-Rosen bridge built into each every molecule in the chain is Einstein-Rosen bridge connected to each other. So therefore, there's a pattern, there's a sequence within that string of molecules together, which is then has various some sort of sheaths protective around it. There's insulation layers, and then there's plastic. There used to be other materials, but now it's been plastic for a long time because it's very assorted, much more durable and less prone to have a spark that catches fire. But electrical wires have existed before the invention of electricity, so there's previous materials used before then. So you have this structure of the string of molecules that conduct electricity, and how it conducts electricity is by being in Einstein-Rosen bridge of there's billions and billions of molecules lined up together, and they line up by electromagnetic force. They line up by an electromagnetic. They're held together by an electromagnetic wave, a quantum physics type held together. So you have a power plant here that's pumping out electricity, that's pumping out lots and lots of electromagnetic waves, not necessarily atom molecules of neutrons, but waves of neutrons. And the thing that is affected the most strongly by an electromagnetic wave is neutrons. It kind of acts as a stair step. The wave acts as a kind of a stair step through the kind of it's more of a it's not really a stair step. It's more of a signpost on the highway, and the highway being the bridge. An elevated highway, kind of like a elevated subway, or Seattle used to have the Alaska Way Viaduct, which was a double layered elevated highway. It's kind of like that without the highway. What holds it together is an electromagnetic bridge, which the molecules exist within that bridge. That they're kind of like the infrastructure of the bridge, but the bridge exists. It's kind of like a beach and water. The beach would be the water would be the molecules of the highly conductive molecules, and the beach would be kind of like the area that would be kind of like the plastic that holds the water there. And then inside of the water are waves. That's the bridge is the waves. A collection, an electromagnetic working together. And then inside of the wave, you could have dolphins, which happens fairly semi-frequently. The dolphins then swim through the wave. Now that's electricity. The electricity operates based off of the bridge itself, not the molecules. The molecules are more like signposts of okay that way, okay that way, okay that way. On a highway, you're entering the city of X, and you've got four exits. You have four exits on this highway, and those exits would be where you have an electrical line that splits. So it just tells the wave where to go, but it actually doesn't. It is not a stepping stone. It's more of that direction. and then you have the dolphins operate as electricity itself. Now what the dolphins are going for, if they're traveling to someplace, or they're hunting, or they're just kind of having a good time just swimming, doing whatever they're doing, that's the electricity. The dolphin is the electricity itself. So you have, and if you have a lot of the power plant that's pumping out lots and lots and lots of waves, then you have lots and lots of dolphins that are running in a line, and they're running in their pack, because the wave is not a singular thing. A wave is very much how dolphins swim, which is semi similar to how geese how geese, as an example, they swim in a wedge. The leader leads for a little while and then gets tired and then goes back to the back, because the wave, the 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 creature that's moving the using the least amount of force to move to fly through the air is the last one in the line. The one who's using the most force is the first one. So and then as the leader goes back, the next one in charge becomes the leader, and then the it's a the one who needs the most rest is at the back, and then they slowly move forward until he becomes that one becomes a leader again, and then after an hour or so of flight, or X amount of minutes of flight, he then that one then goes to the back. But and they're constantly doing this supersymmetry motion thing, in this wave. So the dolphins will swim basically the same way. There's multiple records of dolphins swimming with artificially in artificial waves created by huge ships. Sometimes they will swim with they will swim in the waves that are created by smaller boats that are moving. But it's very, very common for aircraft carrier and various assorted types of really, really big container ships that are going at 15, 20, 30 knots, and the bow waves that kick up 10, 15, 20, 30 feet, depending on how big the ship is and how fast it's going. The dolphins will take advantage of the ship cutting through the water, and then take advantage of all that energy they don't have to expel, because they're riding the wave, they're riding the bridge, they're inside the electromagnetic current, they're inside of that structure, and they're swimming through it. So that's basically the same way electricity operates. When the molecules are all lined up, the water, or the molecules, or the copper molecules, gold molecules, are lined up, then the wave is able to make its way through it. But the signposts are just the signposts. The structure of the tunnel itself is what allows the wave to exist. And the tunnel is created by what holds the molecular bonds together. That's what creates the bridge. But the bridge doesn't. The bridge itself doesn't hold the wave. The wave is itself a thing that just uses the electromagnetic the molecular bonds as a bridge, as a helper to move together in the direction. How this applies to the Earth and those 8 fixed points. Those 8 fixed points are signposts, for lack of a better description. Those signposts are fixed points in the Earth's orbit around the Sun that are approximately 365.4 days. Now back to the point is the Elder Futhark. So that's a tunnel, an electromagnetically created tunnel that's 365.4 days long. Now, you can't use Arabic to calculate that. You can translate it into Arabic, but you can't use the Arabic to begin with, because that's not the language, that's not the structure that tunnel was created with it in. the tunnel that was created with the tunnel is actually the closest language that would be used for that tunnel is, excuse me, the language is the Elder Futhark, which is based off of the 8 fixed points in the Earth's orbit around the sun. So a language that was created based off of observing and learning about this the supersymmetry. Okay, the sun spits out stuff. It spits out both electromagnetics, which is the fundamental building block of the tunnel, as well as particles. And those particles, as the solar wind reaches out from the sun and hits the planet Earth, it hits the planet Earth. Now, the planet Earth is not like Mercury, and it just gets inundated, and the solar wind hits the planet. It hits the planet itself. The planet itself has its own magnetosphere based off of its electromagnetics and its core that is magnetic. So it cannot hit. It interacts with the electromagnetics of the Earth's core and wraps itself around. Hence the aurora borealis that proves that the solar wind hits and then goes around. So you have the aurora borealis is hitting sideways. It's also hitting forward. The Earth goes into in the Earth's orbit around the sun. It goes into orbital east, and so therefore it has to, as it hits this, the solar wind then has to move around the Earth's orbit, the Earth's magnetosphere. So it kind of does one of these things. The solar wind has to make a tunnel for the Earth to move through. So it stopped and then has to has to start making a tunnel, and then it collapses after the Earth passes through. This tunnel is electrically charged, and it's continuously electrically charged because both the Earth has electricity as well as the sun has electricity, and the sun and the Earth having electricity create this, in effect, the molecules that are coming off of the sun, the various assorted molecules that are coming off the sun, help to form that orbital west tunnel. The electricity and it's charged by the sun and the Earth's the cast off from both of those two create this tunnel. Well, that tunnel operates almost identically to an electrical cord. You know, the power plant produces electromagnetic waves, and it is connected to a line of a collection of conductive molecules, copper, gold, what have you, and then that's sheathed to make sure that the electricity cannot go someplace else. So it goes through the wave, not the electrons, but the wave, then does the identical action as the Earth and the solar wind. The exactly the same actions going on. Minus doesn't have to push into the electrical cord. The electrical cord is artificially created, so it goes through to a given destination, be that a light switch or a light or appliances in your home or what have you. It doesn't matter. Wherever where this wave then hits, and that wave then activates the electrons connected to that item, and the electrons then act as the same bridge, and then interact with the molecules, and then create either light or makes the motor work. Which again, the electrical motor inside of those items operates based off of a miniaturized same exact that coil is a miniaturized magnetosphere, and the Earth's magnetosphere, and it then self generates the wave, and that wave is what semi sort of kind of what what makes the machine work. Way complicated. That's physics, quantum physics into mechanical engineering. Things can become a little complicated at this point. So, the Earth's orbit around the sun, and back to those fixed points. How they apply to you is that you take the Elder Futhark and those 365.4 days, and instead of using Arabic numbers 365.4, you have to use the Elder Futhark, and that sequence of sounds that are characters that are in the as stated before, the Mediterranean languages, the northeastern African, the European, and some of the Middle Eastern languages, previous to the invention of the Arabic numbers, each of those character sequences the characters themselves acted as both letters and numbers depending on how they were used, and that even though it's a really long way to get there, that explains that the sequence explains how the next piece of information works. Because you can't use a 10 based, because that you can translate it into 10 base, but you can't actually start with 10 base. You have to start with a 24 based number system, and you have Futhark and then the rest of the sequence. That sequence, if you're starting with the basic sequence, you don't add the F to it. But if you're starting with a sequence that's already in existence, it's FF, FU, FTH, FA, FR, FK, FG, FW, and that's the first eight characters. You then F, and then the second 8 characters F, and the third 8 characters. Then when the sequence repeats itself, it becomes UF, UT, UU, UTH, UA, UAUR, UK, UG, UW. Then TH, F, TH, U, TH, TH, THA. Okay, and that allows for that sequence of the character sequences to create a letter sequence, which allows for the creation of words, because you don't have one sequence of 365.4, you have 8, not counting your birthday, not counting the creation date of whatever. United States formed. The Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th, 1776, but it was written July 3rd. It was finalized July 3rd, and they had to have the printers that night rewrite it, and the next day they signed it. But it was actually finalized on the 3rd, after 3 years of arguing. Well, the day that the delegates came to Philadelphia to start arguing about the Declaration of Independence, which was a fictional idea at the time. When they first got together, they had no idea they were going to end with the Declaration of Independence. They just knew that this current situation was the current situation of no taxation without representation, and rights, and civilization, and various assorted other aspects of the problems that were going on, that was intolerable. That they had to have a solution. And for a lot of those solutions, they were sending letters to the King of England, going, "We ain't playing this game anymore. You either cooperate or else." And the king went, "Or else what? Bring it on." So therefore, the armies clashed each other. But the king did not send in the regular English army. He hired Prussians. Well, the Prussians went, "We'll handle this. We'll take care of this. Get out of the way, England." And so the Prussian army, the Hessians, came in and did a lot of inappropriate behavior, which is, the Hessians are Prussian, and the Prussians have an 800-year history of being not so nice a lot. The Prussians are actually responsible for the Holocaust, but they did a subsidiary of the subsidiary of the subsidiary of the subsidiary of the subsidiary. The Prussian army. Adolf Hitler and his Third Reich the Third Reich is a offshoot of the Free Corps. The Free Corps is an offshoot of the Prussian army. The Prussian army is an offshoot of the Prussian government. The Prussian government is an offshoot of the Prussian emperor. So you have subsidiaries, and then this guy takes all the blame, but this guy's responsible. This guy and these people and this organization and the command and control of this is responsible for his actions. Although he gets all the blame, he's number 5 in the list of people who are responsible for it. But that gets into some pretty heavy duty propaganda and some heavy duty other stuff involved with it, and it's both great and kind of crappy at the same time, because the Holocaust is an extension of the slave trade, and the slave trade in part was what the American Revolution was based off of, which the American Revolution, the founding fathers argued for more than 18 months about the events of the Salem witch trials, which there were three primary witch trials in Salem, 1642, 1660, and 1690. These are the most famous ones, but these two are actually far more nasty, many times more nasty. Less than 50 people were dispatched, hundreds if not thousands, and also hundreds if not thousands. And this one, in the 1660 trials, virtually the entire field of Gothic horror was created in order to be able to tell the hidden clandestine stories that occurred. There's a school that was destroyed, erased from existence, and that the building was destroyed. The property was then seized and sold to the Tucker family, who then built the House of the Seven Gables, which the House of Seven Gables was purpose built in order to be able to be a reflection of the Roman Forum, for some weird, interesting, funky reasons that are associated with the Phil Society and the Prussian Phil Society, and it gets complicated. It gets way complicated because the slave trade was partially about because they had to fund a research project, which is the slave trade, and they captured native Nigerians and then sent them to work for free, of course, so they can generate income so that they can pay for the research. And paying for the research at the University of Timbuktu was created in order to be able to have an assembly point for the research, and the research was to be able to find and rebuild the ancient Roman memento mori ceremony in order to be able to discover the secrets of resurrection, as well as some other stuff, as well as there's some connections with the Tower of Babel. And this is what the Prussians were aiming at. That's what they wanted to do, because they captured the scholars and made them tell their stuff, and made the people who didn't know anything, okay, you're going to go off and work to make sure that we have the funding to be able to pay for the infrastructure to be able to get that, to make those scholars talk. And if they don't talk, then we're going to go generation upon generation upon generation to make those scholars talk. And if they don't, then we'll just find more scholars and make them talk. And if they don't talk, and repeat for centuries. The focus is on the workers, but the focus should be on the scholars and trying to make the scholars talk and give divine secrets of the information I've been telling you for the last almost half an hour, 48 minutes, excuse me. But those 8 fixed points in the Earth's orbit have numbers associated, and those numbers are not necessarily numbers; they're characters. They can be both numbers and letters at the same time. So you have numbers and letters a character that can be a number and a letter at the same time, which means that when you have it's 110 days past Yule, being April April 29th, April 30th, depending on what time it is. It's been 100 days. So 100 Arabic number 900 translates to the fourth sequence of the Elder Futhark 24 characters. So you have 24, 48, 72, 96. So it'd be the fifth sequence. You'd be 4 into the 6th sequence, which means that so it'd be the characters of A and A, because the fourth sequence would be A. Oh, well, 24, 48, 72, 96. So it'd be the fifth sequence. Excuse me, the fifth sequence. So that'd be R and A. Because the 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 79, 90, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. So you have the fourth sequence of the four. So you have A, R, and A. Wow, dyslexia is sometimes a bear to deal with. It's like triple flipped. Um, and so you have that sequence. Well, it's only been 70 days from February 1st, and it's been 30. It's been 40 days from March 22nd. So you have that number, and you have 100 RNA, and then you have about 30 days, and then you have 40ish days less than that. Then you have um, 45, 50ish days less than that, and then you have about it was a little over 30 days ago that about 40ish days ago that March 22nd occurred. So you have those numbers translate to letters. Those letters repeat. And what is it? And when you have a letter sequence that repeats, that's called a word. In sequences of words that repeat is a sentence, and sentences that repeat become a paragraph, and paragraphs become chapters. Chapters become translatable and understandable. You have 8 of those, and but not only do you have the 365.4 forward count, you have backwards count. You have the reverse count, which means you take 365.4 and you subtract however many days it's been since whatever date, since whatever fixed point date. In this case, let's go from Yule, December 22nd. So you take 365 and minus 100, give or take. And that 100 that makes it 265.4. The 265.4 has again a couple different several characters with it. All 8 of them. So you have 2 characters from 1 to 365.4, and then you have 2 characters or 3 characters for 365.4. From this is 1, 365, 364, 363, 362. You count down to 1. So you have 4 characters times 4 characters, and then you take, and there's 8 of those sequences. So although those 8 sequences, you got 4 times 8 characters, and that doesn't count your birth date, or that doesn't count the birth date of when your culture formed, or when your city was founded, or when your state or your county or the region of an area that you live in. For instance, I live in the Pacific Northwest. At least right now, I've been here for about 8 or 9 years in the Pacific Northwest. Well, the Pacific Northwest formulated at X point. I've also lived in Ohio, which is part of 3 or 4 or 5 different collection sequences. I've also lived in Florida, which also has its own interesting sequences. When it left and became part of the Confederacy, when it rejoined the Union, when it was owned by Spain, when it was owned by Britain, when it was owned by the American government, when it was owned by the Confederacy, when it was owned by the American government. It's part of the South. It's also its own isolated little thing. There's also a pocket of the Confederacy still within it, because St. Cloud was not founded by, but right after the Civil War, a lot of Confederates went to St. Cloud and built a new life. So therefore, there's a little Confederacy in St. Cloud, which is still highly active. The KKK Cafe is there and doing just fine as a business, despite the fact that they were about 30 years ago forced to 35, 40 years ago were forced to desegregate. There used to be nobody other than white guys were invited into the place. Now anybody can go in, but it's not exactly a welcome situation there. At least at various sort of times in its history wasn't exactly welcome there. It may be different now. I've never been there. I've driven by the place, but I haven't actually been inside of it. I know people who have gone in there. Um, the I know several people who frequented that cafe over a long period of time. I knew them for a very short amount of time, only a couple of years. This was 10 years ago. The all those dates have associated numbers, and those numbers translate to the Futhark letters, and those Futhark letters create a story of your life. This entire point is the story of your life. Now, back to the supersymmetry aspects. As the Earth passes through the solar wind, it creates an orbital west, and it creates a power line orbital west, and that orbital west power line contains the electromagnetic memory of what the planet was doing at the time, and the electromagnetic creatures on the planet added to the electromagnetics of the planet that was broadcasted out and was then saved by the solar wind orbital west. So when you combine that stuff, you also have the infrastructure of those 8 fixed points, and those 8 fixed points create kind of like it's kind of like having 8 bridges, 8 separate bridges within the larger infrastructure of the bridge, the solar wind itself. The solar wind, the bridge was created by the Earth pushing through it, but that solar wind also then collapsed a little bit, and condensed itself a little bit. But that bridge is still there, and that bridge can be identified in red, based on from the past events that have happened, because it's all electromagnetic. So you can, technically speaking, use really powerful magnets and an electromagnetic wave to communicate and read the corkscrew that is that pattern, because the sun has its own orbit, and because the sun itself moves, as the sun moves in its orbit, the Earth rotates around the sun in that orbit, in the sun's orbit, not just the Earth's orbit. Well, this corkscrew of the Earth's orbit, that can be identified in red and electromagnetically red, because it still contains a lot of electricity in it, because the sun's still pumping out electricity, and we know that the electricity and the waves that the sun pump out continue to power that, as well as the electromagnetic waves that the orbital western corkscrew from the Earth is also powered by all of the other stars that are in the galaxy, that are also pumping out electricity at various assorted waves and sequences, and that still that continues the amount of electricity that is contained in that orbital west, the Earth's orbital west power line corkscrew. But those 8 fixed points, they create their own bridge, and that bridge, and those bridges within this larger bridge are kind of like lanes of traffic, but the lanes of traffic do a gears interplay, because right now we're tomorrow is Beltane, May 1st. The time of Beltane, the influence of Beltane, that bridge is primary. So those letters are primary right now. The letters that are to the left are the past, and those letters to the left that are past are the letters associated with Easter, because and you identify those seasons by the following equation. You take the very second of one of the fixed points. You take the very second of the next fixed point. You then take the very second of the third fixed point. Doesn't matter which one. And between this point and this point, there's an exact second between here and here. This second, starts this time sequence. Well, then you have the exact second between here and here, and that exact second becomes the time frame of this the time frame of this of this fixed point is between this the first point, fixed point, the second fixed point, the third fixed point. The exact second between these two points, exact second between these 2 points is this. The exact second between these 2 points is this. So you have these 2 points are where these letters are primary. These letters are to the left, and these letters are to the right by 1 step. 2 steps. Two steps that way is the point that's after this one. 2 steps back is the point that's before this one. There's a primary. There's 3 this way and 3 that way, and then the 8th one is cut in half. Half of the counts are forward, are count 4 forward, and half the counts are the 4th count backwards. But this is only 180 some days. This is 180 some days. 365, 360. So you have the 4th one is cut in half. Half of it's in front, half of it's behind, because as this one as time travels, every day that this travels forward, this one loses a day and this one gains a day on that 4th count. That applies to you the same exact way. Your birth date is the fixed point. Whatever sequence you are born into, whatever the primary was, is associated. Your counts are associated with that primary count. So you add your letters to this. So how old are you? How many days has it been since your birth date? How many days till your next birth date? And the people, how long have you lived where you're living? How long have you been in your current job? How long have you known the people around you? How old were your parents when you were born? What city were you born in? What state were you born in? What county? All those numbers, letters become part of your counts, become part of your story. That story is created based off of those 8 fixed points in that the supersymmetry bridge that's created by the sun and the Earth's the 8 fixed points in the Earth's orbit around the sun is created by the sun. Those 8 fixed points are created by the sun itself, and so that infrastructure is how you translate the language of your life based off of all the stuff I just told you. Thank you very much.